Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be setting up Forge for 1.19.3. So then, firstly we want to actually open up a browser. For this I'm going to be using Chrome, but you can really use whatever you like. So then what we're going to do here is we're just going to close down all tabs here, and hopefully, here we are. So then, now that we're in here, we need to search up Forge download. So then you should see minecraftforge.net. This is what we want. So simply just click on the first link if it says minecraftforge.net. If it doesn't say files.minecraftforge.net, simply just ignore it, because it could be a scam or anything like that, and we do not want this. So we could get the latest, or we could get the recommended. For this I'm going to be using the recommended. So then, find the installer changelog and MDK and click on MDK. It should lead you to this website, and this is fine. Just wait for it to load, and up in the top right you should see a skip. Now you should have this. Click on the brand new zip file, and now we have everything we need. Simply just go into extract tool and store it somewhere. For here I'm gonna find my mods forge in here, 1.19.3, and then I'm simply just gonna call it lab. So I'm just gonna extract these files into my brand new lab folder, and here we go. For this tutorial I'm gonna be using IntelliJ IDEA, and this is what it looks like. It's incredibly powerful, and I highly suggest that you use it because it is free. That's right, if you actually go into pricing here, we actually see that for individual use with monthly billing, not only is it really cheap to just, get this, but also there's just a download button where you find out that there's a community edition where you can simply just download it. Now then, if you don't have it installed, I suggest you download the exe and go through the steps. However, this is not a tutorial to install IntelliJ IDEA, so we're just going to move on to installing everything in the packages. Open up your build.gradle, or if you don't want to do that, you can simply just open up the project. So then, once you load in, if everything is properly made, then when you start, it should begin the build. This is fine, and you should just wait for this to finish. Okay, once it's done, it should say build successful and then the amount of seconds that it's done. Once you run this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this Gradle in the right, open up tasks, and I'm just going to make it go in further to the right, and we have all of this. So there's Forge Gradle runs, which is our main things, and I'm just gonna do gen IntelliJ runs. This just helps everything work properly. Great, everything's been installed. Now that we've installed everything, we're gonna move on to the SRC folder. Open up the main, Java, and you should see this. This is not what we want, since we want to apply our own packages to set it up. So then, go into build.gradle, and you should find a bunch of stuff. We want to primarily focus on here. I'm gonna use net dot and whatever your name is, or whatever you want to be referred to. For example, I could do something like this, or whatever I have. Then I'm simply just going to identify our mod ID, which is simply just going to be lab for now. We also have this, which I'm just going to modify to lab. You can double click on example mod, press Ctrl F, then Ctrl R, and then the section over here, you can replace it with your mod ID and replace it. Now hopefully there should be no example mod areas. So then, hopefully that should be done. There's also license, readme, and credits, as well as changelog. You can delete these aren't important, but if you would like to read them, you can go for it. There's other files like gradlu.bat and things, but some of them you don't really need to access. One of the things you do need to access is inside of the meta-inf, find the mods.toml, identify your mod ID over here, your version, your display name, and you can even identify a logo file, which is optional. What I would suggest is you find everything that is mandatory and just search for it. Once you find everything that's mandatory and you clear it up, then hopefully you should be able to rebuild everything. It won't take as long as previously. So then you might find dependencies.examplemod. We just want to define dependencies.lab here too. Okay, so now once you've done this, you want to find your build.gradle and locate your thing here. For me, it's net.zippers.lab. So that's what I'm actually going to create. So I could double click on this and immediately we're set up with some things. Okay, number one, our mod ID. I'm going to immediately set it to lab and just clean up the comments. I'm also going to remove our deferred registers and logger. In fact, we're actually going to keep this logger, never mind. So then, once I've cleaned up all of the code that I need, we should be fine. There's also a add listener for add creative here. We're simply just going to make sure that that is still there. So then, now that we've loaded everything, we want to focus on a few things. One of them is our package. We're going to change it to one, our actual thing. So net.zippers.lab in build.gradle. But obviously it's going to say, oh no, it's not loading properly. That's because, well, it isn't. So that's basically meaning that we have to move to package here. So create a new package in here, net, new package in net, zippers, lab. You could also rename the files. For now I'm just gonna simply just do this because it's just much easier for me. So now we have no need for any of these, so just delete them all. Okay, now that we've gotten this is our example mod. We obviously don't actually have to call it example mod, however, so what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to refactor it. I'm going to call this root file, and I'm just going to refactor it here. So then, to start it off, there are a few things that I want to add. So number one, I'm going to add a package called classes. This is something that I always create, and inside of here I'm going to create something called a color calculator, which I've created myself. This basically just allows me to create colors using the way that Minecraft defines colors. You do not need to do any of these steps, but this is what I'm doing. Okay, so then, once we've done this, we need to actually set up everything else, because currently it's going to be doing nothing. However, the good thing is, it's going to be loading properly. We can test this by going into Gradle, Lab, Forge Gradle Runs, and click on Run Client. I'm gonna pause this and return to you when it's done. And there we go. everything's loaded correctly. So before we do anything, go into mods and double check that everything is like how you want it. So obviously there's authors and license and everything that I didn't showcase, but this is quite easy to set up too if you are that bothered about it. But we can tell that it's loaded and everything's working. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly set a few settings that I personally just like to have. Okay, great. So then, once I'm done with this, I can go ahead and quit the game. Everything is running smoothly. Great, you've now just set up your Forge for 1.19.3.